It's not that they're establishing a certain religion as the official state religion. They're endorsing a religion.
Respecting an establishment of religion. That's what the Constitution says.
Let me ask you this. If atheists had somehow rallied to get a sign that said, these 7 are not in heaven, you would be equally upset. And to be honest with you, I would not be happy with that either. Really, all of this gets at is that the government should not endorse one religion or endorse non-religion.
Here in New York, and the city council would do that. By the way, in Kentucky, there's a town called Allah Avenue, and it's a town in Kentucky that's acknowledging a Muslim population in their community. There's a Quran Street, also I think it's in Pennsylvania. So this idea that you're having an acknowledgement of religion doesn't establish anything. And the idea that some group is upset because 7 in heaven, as are affectionately known within their community in that latter group of the fire department, the idea that now that is a violation of the Constitution, come on, it's ridiculous. And you know it and I know it, and maybe that's why the Atheist Association's not showing up tonight.
Michael, our founding document, our Declaration of Independence says...
Which, by the way, has no binding. The Declaration of Independence might be a founding document.
What does it say?
It has no legal standing, though.
What does it say? It says we are endowed by our Creator.
Sean, what does the Constitution say?
Well, the Constitution talks about...
That is the letter right there. That's the Constitution is what binds us, though.
How does 7 in heaven in any way establish a religion? That's what the Constitution says.
In some sense, it endorses a specific religious view, which is that heaven exists.
What religion?
Well, but every time you say it's not establishing, it's not endorsing, you've gone through every establishment clause test,
Michael, it does endorse.
So far, and you said it doesn't violate any of them. So what exactly in the Constitution, in the First Amendment, does 7 in heaven violate?
It says that the Constitution says we're not, the government, that is not supposed to endorse a religion over non-religion, religious views. No, it says the government shall pass no law respecting an establishment of religion. That's what the First Amendment to the United States Constitution says. Right, and so in this sense, it's respecting the establishment of the Christian religion.
Christian? Is there any mention of Jesus in this?
Well, the idea of heaven, where does that come from?
Well, actually, it's out of the Old Testament.
Even if it doesn't come from Christianity.
So you think it's established? Do you think 7 in heaven is establishing Judaism as the religion of New York, of Brooklyn, New York?
No, because most Jewish people I know don't even believe in heaven. But even if it weren't specific to Christianity,
a lot of Jewish people do believe in it. That is not, by the way,
even if it weren't specific to Christianity,
but that is it's out of Judaism. That's where it came from.
Even if it weren't specific to Christianity, though, it does endorse religion.
Michael, you obviously can't be a lawyer.
No, I'm not a lawyer. I have a background in political theory.
Right. So it's clear you don't understand the establishment
Sean, are you a lawyer?
No, but Jay Sekulow is, and I'm in full agreement with Jay, and I've studied the Establishment Clause.
My point was that even if it's not establishing, say, the Christian religion, which I think heaven does
clearly it's not. It says 7 in heaven. I mean,
it's
not establishing anything.
A religious view. It's endorsing a religious view. It's saying that heaven does exist.
A religious view, wait a minute. You think establishing a religious view is a violation of the Constitution?
Well,
so you would, if you do, yes. You think then under God in the Pledge of Allegiance establishes a religion?
What religion?
I think under God in the Pledge of Allegiance is another
under God. What would religion would that establish? Monotheism, I guess. Yeah, well, that you should join NBC because they're very good at censoring those things these days.
Sean, Jay, I don't need to argue that this establishes or endorses a specific religion, say a specific sect of Christianity.
What does the Constitution say?
What I do need to say is that the Constitution says that the government should not endorse or establish any religion at all.
Look, I'm going to tell you again for the fourth time. The Establishment Clause does not say endorse. The Establishment Clause of the First Amendment to the United States Constitution says Congress shall pass no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. There's nothing about it's not a church-state separation. It doesn't say endorse. No one's establishing a religion here. You're saying it's Christianity. There's no mention of Jesus, the Gospels, anything to do with Christianity here other than the concept of heaven, which is, by the way, within Judaism, Christianity, Islam, and every major religion of the world. So this is a ridiculous argument that the atheists are making here.
A lot of intolerance
if it goes to court, it should be thrown out immediately.
I don't see what this has to do with tolerance.
It's
really a separation of church and state issue. That's all it is.
Let not your heart be troubled. Our great, great, great American panel is next. And tonight on our great, great American panel, he's an editor at dailycaller.com, Fox News contributor. Tucker Carlson is here. He's worked on 3 U.S. presidential campaigns, dozens of Senate, gubernatorial, mayoral races all around the country. Democratic strategist Steve McMahon. She is a former reporter, host on Fox Sports, and currently the host of the great one, Mark Levin's favorite program, NBC's Poker After Dark. She's a model, TV personality, and a great American. How many times have you been to see the troops?
16, 14 to Iraq and Afghanistan. Yeah,
all right,
they're great.
I am not of the school that, we need somebody who doesn't necessarily want to run. I think Chris Christie's doing a great job, but if he doesn't feel it's the right time, I don't think we should draft somebody, because I think we have good candidates. But the one thing that Christie does have that I think every candidate, every official can learn is he's got this fight. Let's watch this.
You don't send your children to public schools, you send them to private schools. So I was wondering why you think it's fair to be cutting school funding to public schools.
Hey, Gail, you know what? First off, it's none of your business. I don't ask you where you send your kids to school. Don't bother me about where I send mine. Secondly, I pay $38,000 a year in property taxes for a public school system, predominantly in Mendham, that my wife and I don't choose to utilize because we've decided as parents that we believe a religious education should be part of our children's everyday education. So we send our children to parochial school. Third, I, as governor, am responsible for every child in this state, not just my own. And the decisions that I make are to try to improve the educational opportunities of every child in this state. So with all due respect, Gail, it's none of your business.
Ouch. I love that.
I love Chris Christie's straight talk, and I think that's what most Americans love about him. He has a backbone, which a lot of our politicians don't. When you ask him a question, he says, none of your business. It's not against the law to send your kids to private school. And he's honest about that. And if he feels like he can afford it and give his kids a better education, that's okay. I actually admire that in him. I love Chris Christie.
Well, liberals have pretty much pushed God out of the public arena anyway, so you can't. So he wants God in his children's lives. And unfortunately, he's like a lot of people, he has to pay twice for school.
Well, I actually thought that, you call it personality or chutzpah or whatever. I call it thin skin. And one of the things that he's going to find out if he ever does want to play on the national stage is you can't take the helicopter to your kid's baseball game, and you can't tell voters that they're stupid, and you can't yell at voters and tell them it's none of their business. By the way, I don't begrudge him. I don't begrudge him sending his kids to private schools, but I do think that slapping down a caller who's a constituent and a resident of New Jersey who pays taxes and had a legitimate question is inappropriate for an elected official, whether they're a Democrat or a Republican.
That's exactly what it's going to take to fix the country. Our problems are so profound that whoever would fix them is going to have to look right into the camera and say, no more middle-class welfare. Entitlements must not be reformed. They have to be. No, but it's going to take someone who's a bit of a psycho, actually, to do that. I'm not kidding. Someone who's not going to split the baby and be like, oh, we're going to make cuts in 50 years. No, we're going to cut your Medicare. I'm sorry. We're going to have to because the country is going to be bankrupt if we don't. And only someone with this temperament can pull it off.
Well, I don't think that's true because you see people in Washington right now. Joe Biden's meeting with them every single day. Democrats and Republicans. No, they're talking about cutting entitlements.
Has been a total complete wimp and missing in action on the budget.
They're doing what Republicans want, but they're also looking for reductions in corporate welfare, and they're looking for some defense cuts. And I think all those things are things that most Americans
it sounds like the same political crap that got us into this mess. They're going to meet. They're going to have committees. They're going to have the group of 6, the gang of 12, the gang of 90. And you know what? They've screwed it all up. And now the very people that screwed it up, we're looking at to fix the problem.
Right, exactly. And, they're going to keep throwing money at things that we don't have. They're going to try to raise the debt ceiling, and they're going to do these things that are really going to crush us sooner than later. And it's a sad, sad thing, and it's terrifying.
You guys watched the Huntsman interview. Do you think, what did you think, Tucker, from your perspective?
I think he's really impressive. I think he's articulate, he's accomplished, he speaks Mandarin. I mean, I'm impressed. The press loves him. I have to say, I am struck by the fact that as I travel around and talk to primary voters, that there's not that enthusiasm yet.
For one person.
For Huntsman specifically. Now, that may change. He announced today. Who knows?
Only 35% of Republicans know him.
Bingo. Right. That's exactly right. However, the measure, and let's just not forget this, is not, the measure is how primary voters feel about these candidates. That's all that matters.
Steve, who are you most afraid? We got to run, but who are you most afraid to run against as a Democrat?
I think the most competitive Republicans would be Huntsman or Romney or Pawlenty. I think the rest of them are not going to be very competitive if they're nominated. I think Barack Obama will beat any of them, but I think those three will make it a very tough and very difficult race for the president.
All right, we have a tradition when Leanne Tweeden is here. She throws us out. We're going to have more with our Great American panel coming up. Watch this throw. And we'll continue now with our Great American panel. Tucker said it. If America is ever going to balance its budget, we're ever going to get our fiscal house in order, we're going to have to make some really hard, tough decisions. The president demagogued Paul Ryan. You look what's happened. Look at the riots in Greece. They're talking about austerity measures in Spain and all over basically Europe now. In other words, is this the price of an entitlement society, that as soon as you have to pull back from what the government promised, this is what happens? Riots in the streets, bankruptcy, bailouts, and a standard of living lower than they ever expected.
I would certainly hope that the United States would not break out into riots. I mean, people are going to get a little frustrated that their welfare and that their entitlements are going to be cut. But as Tucker said, I don't think if we don't make those cuts, we're not going to be able to live the way we live and the way we've gotten used to. Everybody's going to have to pinch their piggy banks, and everybody's going to have to do it together.
In 10 years, if you add Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid,
we don't have the money for it.
Interest on the debt, that's every penny we took. That's everything.
I mean, we might as well be called China.
China will own it. China does own it.
That's what I'm saying.
You may be surprised to hear this, Sean, but I agree with you on this. And so, frankly, does the president. The president didn't demagogue the Ryan plan to cut $4 trillion.
He said that old people, kids with autism and kids with Down syndrome will fend for themselves. That was a lie.
The President of the United States wants to cut $4 trillion, just as Paul Ryan does, which, frankly, by the way, is $4 trillion out of $14 trillion. So they got a long way to go, both of them. But the president said Paul Ryan's way to get there, which is to make Medicare into a voucher program, to make block grants out of Medicaid, is not the way the Democrats would do it.
But the president already took $500 billion out of Medicare.
He took $500 billion out of the growth of Medicare, which is basically taking it away from providers. He didn't take it away from senior citizens. He didn't turn it into a voucher program.
Did you see the glitch that they admitted to today that's going to cost them trillions more? Did you see that? Yeah. There's a glitch in the health care bill.
It turns out that they're radically expanding the programs at a time when they're unsustainable. The greatest lie of all is that these programs can continue. Medicare's ending, and everyone lies about it. The greatest of all lies, though, and the greatest of all sins that politicians commit, is to feed the unrealistic expectations of the American middle class that these programs can continue. That's the problem in Greece. These people have, I think, well-earned outrage. They never thought, they were never told this was going to happen. Right. And Americans are in the same boat.
That's why they're so mad at the politicians.
In other words, all of us will have paid in to our Social Security our entire lives, and we can expect to see little or nothing.
That's correct.
Nothing.
So the government then will legalize stealing money and
well, that's already happened. We're already at that point. And by the way, the idea that every entitlement that people get they've already paid for is untrue. And politicians
Why am I
always
angry
say
about
that. You earned this. Well, that's just not true.
Yeah, I mean, well, you know, look, I know they're going to means test. I know they're going to raise the retirement age to like 20 seconds before I drop dead and keel over, which, by the way, will be a liberal national holiday. But why do I resent that I worked my whole life when I didn't have any money and now I get paid a little better? Why do they get to steal my money that they said that would be there for me?
Well, I can't tell you why you resent it, but I can tell you this: you've worked very hard, and I know your background. I've known you for a long time. You worked very hard, and you made something of yourself. And thank God you don't need the government support as you get older.
No, but they took my money.
I know they took your money. I know they took your money, but you know, originally it was designed to be a safety net for seniors, and it was designed to be something that seniors could have access to when they're older.
But they promised me I would get that money back. They put it in a lockbox.
I know, Sean, but you don't really need it, do you? And I don't really need it.
But you're going to, maybe.
Tucker doesn't really need it.
I actually do need it.
Yeah, wait a minute. You know what? I don't need, let's say people don't need 80%. Why don't we give the government 80% of what we make, Leanne? Every time you go out and model, you know, you just go and you do a show, you'll get 80% of the government.
It's bad enough as it is now. We need to lower the taxes, especially if we want to create jobs. Don't take the money from me that I've put into my own future that I'm not going to get back now because it's already been spent. We can't sustain what we're doing. And no, I resent it because I worked hard for that money.
Exactly.
Well, you get to spend your declining years supporting the baby boom, which will live forever, by the way. They're all immortal.
And live well,
thanks
to you.
Complaining, talking about themselves, and spending your money.
Thanks to Leanne, they'll all live well, too.
I think that's true. But I just see this, you know, 15 seconds before I die and before they take the gold out of my teeth, you know, I will pay the government.
But here's the thing.
No, we don't have time for the thing.
Oh, but what? Just
and Obama's
very quickly. Why do Republicans say we have to cut money and cut taxes?
We'll see you tomorrow night.